There's a term that is used quite frequently in my Facebook group, and it's a good term. I think it's pretty accurate for what we experience sometimes. It's a term that's called trickle truth. And what that means is that those of us who are the betrayed spouses don't get the whole story right off the bat. We get parts of it, little pieces of it, and it comes as this little trickle. And it's almost like dying by a million paper cuts. Do you know what I'm saying? Is that you? Okay. I think we ask the question a lot, why would he do that? Why wouldn't he just tell me? I mean, he's told me he had the affair. Why doesn't he just like rip the Band-Aid off and tell me everything? If you're asking that question or wondering that question, I have some theories that my husband has confirmed that could possibly be why, and I'd like to share them with you. So stay tuned. So why would he not just tell me everything, right? I get it. Makes sense to us. I mean, dude, you've already told me the worst. You told me you had an affair. How, you may as well just spill it. Answer the questions. Just spill the beans. I need to know everything so I can move forward. I totally understand where you're coming from with that. I felt the same way. I do believe, though, there are some reasons, and this is not... I'm not going to share these reasons as a way to excuse the trickle truth. Don't misunderstand me. But I think sometimes when we understand what's behind why, it may help us get them to be more open with us because we get it. We understand the why. We don't agree with it, but we understand the why. So here are some reasons why I think they don't tell us everything. I think the big reason is fear. So if you're watching this, I'm assuming you've decided to stay in your marriage after the affair. And if he knows that too, that you've decided to stay, but he hasn't told you everything, I'm sure there's a level of fear that if he did tell you everything, that maybe you wouldn't stay, right? So perhaps there is a fear behind the reasons why he's not telling you. Now, I agree with you. That's not a reason. That's not an excuse. We're living in fear 24/7 because of what he did, so he needs to get over his fear and tell us everything. But there's a genuine fear there. Fear is very powerful, and I think you know that for yourself. If you're going through a fear recovery, you're living in a fight or flight stance, and you know that fear is a very powerful driving force behind a lot of our actions. So I do believe fear is a big reason why they don't tell us everything all at once. I think they fear our response. I also believe shame. Shame factors into that. And our response, the look on our face, our devastation, all that stuff feeds into their shame. And if they're already feeling shame, they will avoid feeling shame at all costs. Shame is one of those feelings that makes you feel icky. It's why a lot of people avoid dealing with their issues. It's why a lot of people won't go to counseling. It's because they are genuinely struggling with shame, and they know they have to unpack all that in front of another person if they're going to get through it, and they don't want to because facing their shame is just too devastating for them, and it hurts. It's a very painful thing to have to face. So fear, shame, I believe those two things are behind it. I also believe that they are afraid of our response in general. I don't know that, I think sometimes they don't feel safe unpacking the full truth for us. And what I mean by that is if we tend to have a bad temper, or we yell, or we tend to speak in a shaming tone to them. So it's fear of us shaming them more, or fear of us yelling, or whatever it is. They could carry this stuff from childhood, and it could remind them of growing up with abusive parents, so they become conflict avoiders. There's a gazillion reasons why shame, fear, all these emotional type things can factor into why someone wouldn't just spill the beans, like just say the whole thing. And finally, I think, and I know this may be hard to hear right now, but I think for many cases, it's also fear of hurting us again. I think they genuinely don't want to hurt us any more than they've hurt us. And I think they think, I'm not saying this is right at all, but I think they think that not telling us is better than telling us, because they think they're saving us from more pain. And I don't know if that's true or not, to be honest. I know there are probably some of us out there who kind of don't want to know. They're happy being in the dark because they just would rather not know and just move forward. But some of us need to know every single detail, right? But I do think deep down in their heart, if they really do love us, and I know a lot of our husbands do, they still love us. Even though they made this horrible choice, they still have love for us. I think they don't want to hurt us any further. Now, all of this none of this is to say, let me be clear, that it's okay to trickle truth us to death. I disagree with that completely. I don't think that's okay at all. I've never thought that was okay. I think it's honesty. There has got to be 100% transparency. But if you're struggling because why wouldn't he just do that? I mean, I think the whys are what's killing us. I would encourage you to think through the whys. Why do you suppose he's not doing that? What can we do about it, I think, is where this particular video is headed as we talk about this. So what power do we have? You can't make somebody tell you what they don't want to tell you. But I will say, if some of what's behind his reasoning is that he doesn't feel safe telling you because of your response, practice responding in an unemotional way to what he says to you. If he does unpack something, if he does share a truth with you, practice the art of either walking out of the room if you feel like your emotions are going to explode out of you. Practice how you respond, verbally, emotionally. Now, I'm not saying stuff it. You're going to feel what you're going to feel, and there's nothing you can do about it, and there's nothing he can do about it. But there's rarely a reason to verbally and physically shame a person or physically harm a person because you're upset. There are different ways to manage it. There's different ways to handle it. And I've got videos on here about emotional boundaries. I have videos on here about how to manage your emotions. I encourage you to watch those, because our emotions can drive us to do very hurtful things. And as angry as we are with them, listen, it doesn't help or benefit anybody to physically harm him or verbally abuse or harm him because of his actions. It may feel good in that moment, but we don't want to become those people. We have enough to deal with in our own than to carry the guilt and the shame of doing that to another person as well. So, the more we can manage how we're feeling and how we're responding to how we're feeling, the better off the conversation is going to go if he does disclose something in addition to what he's already shared. Provide that safe space is what I'm saying. Provide the safe space for him to give you that information and to be open and honest. And the safer he feels doing that, the more often he will do it. And so just consider that. That's something we do have the power to do. We can manage how we respond. We can also manage how transparent we're being. Transparent about how we feel, transparent about our needs. The more transparent we are, the more transparent they will most likely be. So we can control some things when it comes to our own behavior, but that's really all we can do. Okay? They need to figure out how to manage their fear. They need to process their shame. That's going to be done with a counselor, a professional who can work with them. I actually had somebody ask me the other day, is there somebody like you, for men who have affairs, someone who can work with men. And I don't know if there is or there, I wish there was. That would be a fantastic thing for a coach to do. If one of your husbands gets through this and he's amazing and he can start coaching men through this, that would be a fantastic gift for the universe, because men don't do well sometimes going to counseling. They struggle with it because men, because of their ego, because of their pride, they struggle with processing shame in front of another person. It's embarrassing to them, and they feel weak, and they don't like that. So anyway, so if your husband's going to be that guy, think about it. That might be something good for him to do, maybe a way to give back after he's gone through it himself. But anyway, that being said, I hope this has helped you really kind of think through the whys, because the better we understand the why, the better we know what we can and really what we can't do about it. It's up to him if he tells us or not, but there are a few things we can do on our end, okay? All right. I was fortunate in that my husband pretty much pulled the Band-Aid off. But then I had multiple D-days, so I did experience some trickle truth. But the first time around, that Band-Aid was very painful being ripped off. I'm glad he did it that way, but the multiple D-days did end up becoming trickle truth situations, and it was painful, and I understand how frustrating that is. But once I understood the why, it helped me, and I hope it helps you as well. And as a woman who's been through this myself, and as a woman who is now a master certified coach helping women like us through this situation, I'm here and available if you would like to talk to me and see if maybe my services could help you through your journey as well. There's a link below this video, especially if you're watching on a PC. Just look at the description of the video and you'll see a link to schedule an appointment with me. On your phone, I think you have to expand the video description to see that. But either way, I do hope that this has been helpful to you. And at the very least, I hope that you will subscribe to this channel. I try to publish weekly as I have time to do so. So if you subscribe, you get a little notification every time I post. So anyway, good luck with all of this. And I hope the why has helped.